Welcome into Training Camp Report presented by Frontier. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. And as you can tell, for our first time this camp, we are inside, which we do not hate.
Yeah, and it's not because of a storm or lightning or anything. I think it was prompted by yesterday that it was just ridiculously hot out there, and coach decided they needed a break from the sun and the heat, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great move and a great call. You never want to exhaust everybody too early in camp here. Well, speaking of that day that was incredibly hot, let's take a look at our Ticketmaster play of the day from yesterday's practice. We start with a little Blaine Gabbert action to Tyler Johnson. This is a guy that I feel like we haven't talked a ton about so far in camp, but has been getting some praise.
Yeah, both Mike Evans brought him up without being prompted, and then the next day Todd Bowles talked about him. One thing they both pointed out is Tyler came into this camp in great shape, and if you remember from, I believe it was last year, maybe the year before, that was one of the storylines for Tyler. When he got here, he wasn't in as good shape as he could have been, and so it took him a while to sort of get up to speed. This time he hit the ground running, and they say he's just making plays every day.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch as we talk about that very crowded wide receiver room. Well, on the other side of the ball, a guy having to face a lot of those tough wide receivers, Carlton Davis. I think we haven't talked as much about him because, again, a lot of times in training camp we're talking about the people that are trying to make the roster or the question marks there. Carlton is not a question mark. We know his role on this team. So tell me a little bit about what you've seen from him in recent years and what he has grown to mean to this secondary.
Well, you're right. We haven't had a reason to talk about Carlton because he just goes out and does his job. That being said, this guy, you can't say his goals are moderate. He's shooting for the top. The other day he was talking to the media, and he said he wants to be the premier cornerback in the league. He wants to dominate the league. He said he wants to lead the league in interceptions and passes defense, and he wants to be that guy that every other team believes is an issue. And for that to happen, he's got to get his hands on the ball more often, not just knock it down, but get some interceptions. Now, he does get his hands on the football quite a bit. In fact, over the last 3 years, all of it in Todd Bowles' system, which really fits him well, he leads the league over the past 3 years in passes defense, which means he's getting there, right? Now, if you look at everybody else in the top five, James Bradbury, J.C. Jackson just got the huge contract, et cetera, all these guys have been to at least one Pro Bowl in that 3 year span. Carlton hasn't. And the reason probably is just the interceptions haven't been there. And he knows that. He's been talking about that since the spring. He wants to get more interceptions. He wants the whole defense to get 30-plus interceptions, which hasn't happened since the Super Bowl team. So that's a pretty lofty goal as well. But, you know, Carlton Davis gets a few more interceptions, and he'll probably be in the Pro Bowl too. And,
I mean, last year was just such a tough year on that secondary with so many injuries.
Yeah.
So looking at who all is on the roster now, new guys involved, what do you see as how this could all help Carlton if you hopefully do have the health a little bit more, and then you've even brought in some new experienced guys like Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal, and just we've seen guys that are also versatile and playing inside and outside of just where all the other guys that have been brought in could help a guy like Carlton Davis?
Well, obviously, yes, if we can do some more versatile scheming and some more pre-snap disguising what you're going to do, anytime you can confuse the quarterback a little bit. But I would actually say what would help Carlton the most in terms of being different this year is if the Buccaneers can put even more pressure on the quarterback. If Joe Tryon-Shenka steps up and is really a nice bookend to Shaq Barrett, if Logan Hall and Akeem Hicks give you some of that pressure up the middle, if the pressure on the quarterback is better, it wasn't bad last year by any means, but if it's better, then that obviously helps out the defensive backs because you get hurried throws, you get throws that are tipped, you get throws where the quarterback can't see everybody that's out there, so really more pressure up front would probably help him and the rest of the secondary quite a bit.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about the main strengths of Carlton. What are the things that have made him the guy that now he thinks he has a chance to be the top corner?
Well, he's perfect for when the Bucs want to do this pressing at the line. He's great in press man coverage. You know, he's got long arms. He's a strong guy. He's also good at tackling. So, you know, we want our corners to be good in run support, and really just to be a great cover cornerback, you just have to be really good at mirroring routes, and that's one of the hardest things in the NFL to do because, you know, the receiver knows where he's going, and the cornerback has to figure it out on the fly, and you know, just hip movement, feet, you know, detailing the techniques in their feet and their foot movement, how fluid their hips are, how can they can turn and run, all those things that a cornerback has to have to be an elite cornerback in the league, and that's why they're hard to find because those are hard things to do.
Yeah, and we talked yesterday about the importance of guys like Robert Hainsey going against Avita Vea and Akeem Hicks. I think Carlton Davis has to be one of the other people that has the best practice situation in terms of getting ready, going against that kind of a wide receiver room. I mean, that's
talking about.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's no let up. You don't get any layups hardly when when you're rotating. And if the Buccaneers were to, Chris Godwin isn't playing, right? So you don't have to worry about him. Yeah, but now you have to worry about Russell Gage, who's having an incredible camp and is hard for anybody to cover according to the coaches. So Julio Jones is now out there, and was it Carlton who described Julio?
Yes, yeah.
As I think I already said it, but it's such a good line, it's worth repeating. He looks like a tight end. He's as fast as Scotty, and he can stop on a dime like Jalen Darden.
It's incredible.
So that's another guy.
It's like you went into the video game and built the player. All right, well, we are going to take a quick break here. Let's take a look at our Tuesday's camp highlights.
Co-Keefed, tight end, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hometown Sioux Center, Iowa. Real small agricultural community. Just a lot of pride in town and hard work and ag, obviously, but it's kind of it, really. Dad was a high school football coach and track coach, so it was kind of around football and athletics my whole life in that capacity, so just always was kind of meant to be in that way. Grew up, wrestled since kindergarten, ran track, and obviously football too. It means everything, it's what the community gets around on a Friday night. It's what the high school looks forward to on Friday. It means the same to me in Sioux Center as it does here. It's just a group of 70 to 100 individuals chasing one goal, coming together for one goal, and that's to win games and championships. Really, it's just team aspect. It's the ultimate team game. I'm just getting around guys you enjoy, guys you get to know through the process, and just going to battle, going to war with them, doing what I need to do, whatever the team asks me to do, whether that's blocking, catching passes, special teams. But, I just love the game and just giving full effort every single play, not taking a single play off or a play for granted, because not a lot of people get this opportunity. I'm getting to work with Cam and Cody a little bit, just knowledgeable dudes, watching them run routes, their process, just how they're thinking. It's a lot of passion and a lot of hard work. Might not be the prettiest game, but it's going to be the toughest.
Welcome back to Training Camp Report presented by Frontier. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. As you can tell, we are in the indoor today. The team has moved in there, not because of storms or anything, but just because they wanted to give the guys, I think, a little bit of a break from the heat and the weather, which we are more than okay with ourselves.
Yeah, I'm just a tiny bit concerned about these offensive linemen blocking each other behind us, because some of them have pushed their opponent pretty close,
quite close
here.
to us.
I really don't want to be overwhelmed by 600 pounds.
I'm hoping some of our crew would warn us if we were in impending danger. But
there's the overhead view of that drill.
Yep, this is the drill behind us, and we had the big guys on defense behind us yesterday. Now we got the big guys on offense behind us. But we wanted to take a look again. We were talking about Carlton Davis before the break, and let's take a look at another guy that'll be influencing him, those DBs, and Antoine Winfield Jr. I think he's a guy that, alongside Tristan Wirfs, we just talked about how incredible that draft class early on was, of the kind of contributions they made. Antoine came in and just was playing like a vet, acting like a vet, had the benefit of having a dad that's been training him his whole life on what it takes to be a pro. Right. So now that he's not even as much of a young guy as he was, what do we expect from him at this point, where he came in already so mature? Now he's had a couple years under the belt.
Well, he was fourth in the defensive player or defensive rookie of the year voting as a rookie, and then he made the Pro Bowl in just his second season, and that's pretty rare for the Buccaneers. That was just the 9th time in team history that one of our players has made a Pro Bowl in either his first or second season, and we have a list of that here that we'll show you in a moment. And if you look at that list, there haven't been a lot of them, and the only two on the entire list who are defensive players are Hugh Green from 1982 and Antoine Winfield. So it took another almost 40 years for us to get another defensive player who made the Pro Bowl within his first 2 seasons. That's the kind of impact that he's made. Now, what Antoine is really excited about this season is that they clearly are going to use him in a variety of ways. Kind of think of like a honey badger type of thing, Tyrann Mathieu, move him all around. He said he's going to work some in the slot. He said he has to be really good in the slot to be considered a dominant defensive back in this league. I think he's going to be great. I really think this is going to be just, you can't say breakout because he just went to the Pro Bowl, but this could be even another breakout year for Antoine Winfield. I think he's going to be one of the main playmakers on this defense.
And we know that we lost Jordan Whitehead, and how do you see that impacting Antoine Winfield and what he's asked to do, and then the other guys that have been brought in, of just how that whole safety position will look in terms of how Todd Bowles likes to use his safeties, and therefore what will be asked of Antoine Winfield now?
Well, I think what the difference is after Jordan Whitehead departed, the Buccaneers brought in both Keanu Neal and Logan Ryan, and then they really are, at least so far, it appears as if they're going to give Mike Edwards a much bigger role, which he's been hoping for a couple seasons now. And I think what you ended up with is a defense that's going to be a lot more versatile, at least in how they use their defensive backs and the safeties in particular. If the last few years, it's been mostly the same kind of deal with Antoine Winfield, mostly as the free safety type, because he's really good at seeing the whole field and cleaning up plays, that could be a problem if he wasn't so aware. And then Jordan Whitehead starting in more of a strong safety role, more often closer to the line of scrimmage, and Mike Edwards subbing in for him in obvious passing downs. I don't think you're going to see any really obvious pattern like that throughout the season. I think you're going to see a lot of different packages to get whatever they think are the best 5 or 6 combination of defensive backs on the field at a time. And the key to that is going to be Antoine Winfield and probably Mike Edwards. If he gets all close to 100% of the snaps, is he going to produce at the same level as he did in his not as frequent snaps? If that happens, that's a big step up for the Bucs defense. But again, I think Winfield and his versatility and the versatility of Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal to move all around is really going to be the differences here.
So we do know that versatility is one of his biggest strengths, but if you're doing, like you said, where you're putting guys in for certain specific areas, we got a little drive-by by Carlton Davis there. What if you were to look at the different situations that you would put guys in, if you're saying that if you want a rotation of just the strengths and the situational of who goes in what would you say Antoine Winfield Jr. that would mean for him? What are the types of, looking at his strengths, the types of things that he would be the most useful in?
He kind of does it all.
Yep.
That's kind of the point. I mean, like I said, they really like him as that center fielder because he's so aware and he sees the field so well. But if you only use him in that way, you're not getting the fact that he can cover real well in the slot, that he can blitz out of the slot, that he'll be good in run support when he's up close to the line. If he's playing in the slot or somewhere close to the line and it becomes a running play, he's very good at tackling. He just really is kind of good at everything. And so that's why I think they want to use him in such a versatile role, because they want to bring out all the different things that he can do. And I think we said it the other day, the key for him taking the next step, and the coaches said it and then he said it, is being aware of where his help is. And that's the next step for him. So he knows if he sees an opportunity for a big play, can I go for it and leave this area uncovered because Mike Edwards is going to get there or something like that. So knowing where his help is can make him more aggressive and make him go for those big plays that the Bucs want out of their secondary.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Mike Edwards, because he's a guy that I just think is so interesting, who hasn't necessarily been in that starting role as much, but man, per snap that he's out there, he finds the ball. And where do you think he fits in all of this, and just the expectations for him now coming in this year? Because we've talked a lot about the idea of what Keanu Neal and Logan Ryan bring, but a guy like Mike Edwards, who's already been here and in this defense, what do you think they are hoping for from him this year?
Well, I think he's probably the one that would have the most set role of just basically being that free safety and letting him get his eyes on the quarterback, find the football, and get there quickly, because that's what he does best. But in any defense, and certainly this one, there are times when your safeties have to be a bit interchangeable, and depending upon what the offense does, maybe some pre-snap motion, some shifts, sometimes you might start with this safety up close and this one deeper, but if they shift, you have to shift as well. So Mike Edwards, the big goal for him is to continue improving his tackling, which was probably not the best part of his game for his first 2.5 seasons, but really started to improve in that regard last year, which is why the coaches have more confidence to have him on the field 100% of the time.
All right, well, we are going to take a quick break, and we're going to have one more segment coming to you here on Training Camp Report presented by Frontier. So now meet another one of our rookies, Jake Camarda.
Jake Camarda, punter, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm from Norcross, Georgia, part of a family of 4. Mom, dad, and my sister. Grew up playing baseball, a little bit of flag football, a little bit of basketball, and eventually got into tackle football. probably closer to the age of 8th grade. Transitioning from winning the national championship on my way to getting to where I am now, it's been crazy. Definitely took a lot of the things that I learned while I was at Georgia, and everything that I learned there, I took it and brought with me towards my preparation for the next level and my preparation to get to the place that I am today. Yeah, since being here in Tampa, I've definitely learned a lot, more than I probably ever would have imagined I'd have learned. Been playing the game for a while now. You think that you've learned a lot, but you really get to this level and you learn that you're still a student of the game, and there's just so much more to learn. So just being around this coaching staff and around everybody here, I've been able to learn so much more about the game and about what I do that can make me a better player. This season will be a success for me if we could, go to the Super Bowl and win. That's the ultimate goal in this game, and that's what we're looking for.
Welcome back into Training Camp Report presented by Frontier. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. It is time for our final segment, and as you can tell, there is a very excited crowd here today. Probably also very excited to be in the air conditioning.
Yeah, I bet they love that.
They picked a great day to come to camp,
I'm
and
with
today is actually Community Day. So these are a lot of different community groups within Tampa Bay, and I believe one of them is Special Olympics, which is always one of my favorite days of camp every year. And they get a chance to finally, I think we're going to be back to them getting to do some things with the players afterward after COVID kept that from happening.
Yeah, that's
so
great. That's great.
always going to be a lot of fun. And so we wanted to talk a little bit to close here about the kicker competition. This is something that is pretty easy to evaluate in some ways during camp, because it's just you count how many each of them made and missed and from what distances. It's a little bit easier than some of the nuanced type position battles.
It is, but it's a little hard to separate them when neither of them hardly ever misses. I mean,
Great problem.
Been keeping track of it each day, and so I compiled it all together. If we can look at that graphic, and we can see that how well they're doing. They've been alternating, although for some reason when they came to the second week they switched it and Jose went first. But each day one of them gets to do a field goal period of somewhere between 6 and 8 kicks. And if you look at Ryan Suckup, the veteran, he hasn't missed yet.
It's incredible.
He's made all of his so far, I think 20 of 20. And finally yesterday they stretched him out and let him try some longer ones, which of course is part of the equation here. Can he hit the longer ones? And he made it from 49 and 51. Jose has missed twice out of, 8, 16, 23 times, so that's still pretty good. One of them that he missed was it hit the right upright on a 51-yarder, and then he missed one on the first day of the length I don't remember, but he's made a 49, a 51, a 51, and a 54, so they've both been fantastic. One thing to point out about Jose, in his last time he did it, they didn't. The coach has been talking about putting him in scenarios and game type scenarios, and on 2 of his kicks, including a 46-yarder, they held him on the sideline and then made them run in, get set, and get the kickoff within 10 seconds, because that can happen.
Right.
You might not have a timeout. You might have to get in there and get that operation successfully accomplished in just a few seconds. And so he made both of those. So both of them have been fantastic. It's probably going to come down to how they operate in the games.
Yeah, that's going to be so interesting. And of course, Jake Camarda still handling the kickoffs, so it really is just about those field goals that it is a little bit easier and probably harder in that sense to try to evaluate based solely on their field goal kicking, which is going to be interesting. Well, I know we also wanted to touch on Leonard Fournette, that he had a press conference. And first of all, if anybody hasn't seen, he got a goat cake for Tom Brady's birthday made.
A goat cake?
Yes, and it is, if you have not seen it, you need to Google it. It is incredible.
Is it shaped like a goat?
It's shaped like a goat's head, and it is honestly very incredible. Like, just the cake making ability here is very impressive. And I think he said something on it about happy birthday old head, maybe something about happy 100th birthday to Tom Brady, which, they always love having fun with that.
Probably hardly anybody has heard that today is Tom Brady's 45th
Yeah, I'm sure
birthday.
no one's heard at this point. So that is look at Leonard Fournette over there at practice,
Leonard.
and he spoke to the media.
Look how svelte he is.
Look how svelte. It's not like anyone has talked at all about that this offseason, and it seemed like he got a chance to address it, and maybe even showed up shirtless to the
to the
press
autograph
conference.
line. He put his shirt back on for the press conference, but in fact, it's funny that he's talking to Shaq, because he said that was the guy he told as they were leaving minicamp that he was going to be back in good shape. He was going to come to camp in good shape, which is what he did. Mm-hmm. And of course, that was a storyline, and as he accurately pointed out, Leonard did yesterday, at that time of year, there's not a lot of news, and if there's something, everybody's going to make it into the big news item. But it all kind of is getting washed away in the wash now, because he's fine. And he pointed out to us, and we wouldn't have any way of knowing this, that he says, I tend to blow up a little bit in the offseason. I get a little big. He says, I have big jeans. Not
Love
the
it.
ones you wear. He says his
Yes.
mother's big,
Yes.
his father's big. He just has big jeans. It's just the way life is. But that also means he knows from having done it before how to get in shape for the time that he needs to be in shape for. And he's fine. He's looking good. It's not an issue at all.
Not an issue, which is always great. Great to see. All right, well, that is going to do it for us on this edition of Training Camp Report presented by Frontier. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Tomorrow is actually an off day for the players, but then we'll be back here the next day on Friday for another edition of Training Camp Reports. We'll see you then.